This coaching cycle is heating up. It is getting wild. The Las Vegas Raiders, if you don't know, now you know, had interviewed Davis Webb, quarterback coach for the Broncos, passing game coordinator for the Broncos, guy who's worked very, very closely with Bo Nix, to help him out as a rookie, um, help dominate the AFC West, right, this year, part of last year. So a guy that's moving up the coaching cycle. There's a lot of talk. We talked about it yesterday. Some people think it's just the offensive coordinator position. I beg to differ. I don't think after Spytek said that he's allowing his head coach to pick his guys, right, because they work with those guys day in and day out. They come up with a scheme. They have to have chemistry, right? So I don't believe Spytek is looking for the next offensive coordinator, right? I think that's the head coach's job, and I believe they're weighing all avenues, right? They want to know what they got, who they got. Do they want to go young? Do they want to go old? You got names like Harbaugh. You got names like one that just dropped. You got names like the thumbnail, right? Kevin Stefanski. A lot of talk about Kevin Stefanski. Do the Raiders go that way? Well, rumors are and news is that yes, they will interview Kevin Stefanski. Like I said, they interviewed Davis Webb yesterday. They have Matt Nagy, OC for the Kansas City Chiefs, in the building today, as well as Vance Joseph. We talked about this on this channel before. Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, been a head coach before in the NFL, has experience. So, which way do they go? Do they go old? Do they go young? Well, we'll break it all down. We'll get into it. Also, in the news, Marshawn Lattimore arrested for improper gun use and handling of a firearm in a vehicle. So, another player in the news. Also, the latest coaching boots. Mike Macdonald, Dolphins head coach, is no longer Dolphins head coach. He was fired this morning. And from what I know, I believe he has pretty good ties with Dan Campbell, right? The Lions head coach, right? So look for him. If he doesn't get another head coaching gig, if he doesn't get a head coaching interview, look for him to slide on in over there to the Detroit Lions, who need the offense revamp, right? They lost Ben Johnson last year. And it's time. It's time for some retreads already over there in Detroit. So look in my opinion, Mike McDaniel, more than likely, if he doesn't get a head coaching job, which, after the way this head coaching job has went, usually coaches, get pushed back for a year. They got to sit out for a year. Jason Ruiz, what's good? Appreciate you, my guy. Greg Brewer in the building. Appreciate you. What's good? What's good? So, another big name have dropped, Kevin Stefanski. I know he's on the thumbnail, right? Will be interviewed by the Las Vegas Raiders. We don't know an exact date yet. I'm sure now that Mike McDaniels has been fired from the Dolphins, he will also be on that list. But let's talk a little bit about Kevin Stefanski, right? He did what he did with Baker Mayfield. He's been two-time coach of the year. 2 years ago against the Raiders, Deshaun Watson, looked like Deshaun Watson. He was out there throwing 70-yard bombs to wide open receivers with no coverage. And thank God that receiver was former Raider Amari Cooper that can't catch the ball. So the touchdown was dropped, and we ended up squeezing that game out. But that was a tough team, right? That defense is number one. And, I think Kevin Stefanski has been handcuffed. I don't think Shador was his pick. I'm not sure if trading for Deshaun Watson was his idea, right? He's just a head coach. I'm sure he's not the one that said, yes, let's bring in this dude for 200 and whatever $million and let him sit on the bench injured every year. So, he's got a quarterback over there, but he's been handcuffed. What he did with Baker Mayfield over there with the Browns, and his young career was pretty decent, right? But then it kind of fell off. So is it the owner in Cleveland? Is it the head coaching? Is this Stefanski? We don't know, but I guess we'll find out when he takes another head coaching job this year. But will it be with the Las Vegas Raiders? I mean, time will wait and see, right? Time will wait and see. You have a guy that's, half and half when it comes to developing quarterbacks. Done a pretty decent job. Seems to build a very, very good staff, right? That defense is tops in the NFL with, Myles Garrett, one of the greatest to ever be on the gridiron. So Kevin Stefanski is a name definitely to watch out for. Let me know in the comments. Is it a name that you would want as the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, or is it a no? Let me know. Also, out of the top 4 head coaches that they've interviewed already, if it was to stop today, right? Davis Webb, turns 31 years old, former NFL quarterback, right? 6'5", guy that, would be an intimidating head coach, right? 6'5", you're as big as all the guys out there. You're not, 5'9", trying to look up to these dudes, talk to them. Has experience as a quarterback, has played in the NFL. Davis Webb, Matt Nagy, Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. A guy that's, helped Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes, but you could say Patrick Mahomes has kind of fell off in the last year or two. So Nagy, Vince Joseph are the guy that they are interviewing tomorrow. The hottest name and the hottest ticket around is Clint Kubiak, right? So Clint Kubiak, Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, or Matt Nagy. If you had to choose today, if it was only out of those 4, which ones would you pick? Let me know. Shout out to the people in the building. Let me get these damn glasses on so I can see, because, I'm old and blind. Salute driving. Won't be on for another. Cool. Greg Brewer, I got you. Raider Ryan in the building. Thank you for all the content. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you. Thank you for being a member for so long. What up? Bro? What up? So what up? Crazy NFL world we're living in. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild. Some crazy firings, and don't be surprised. If there's a couple more of those firings very, very soon, right? The Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur, a name that a lot of Raider fans seem to want all of a sudden if he gets fired. But don't be surprised if Matt LaFleur loses to the Chicago Bears and doesn't win a round in the playoffs again, that he's a name that could be moving on, right? And on that chopping block. Now, I know they got new management over there. They got new owners. So, he could stay in the building. But you can't go to 3 playoffs in the, make the playoffs as the 7th seed. Thank God they made an extra one, right? 3 years in a row, and then just lose. So we know he's a great coach. I think his brother would be a damn good coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, right? A guy that hasn't really got his shot. But we know LaFleur, Matt LaFleur, we know Sean McVay, and we know Kyle Shanahan. We're all in the same group together, right? And 2 of those dudes are, top of the mountain. One of them, well, he's trying to get there. But you can't blame the man. Offensive injuries, receiver injuries, doesn't really have a number 1 over there in Green Bay. You think you want Kubiak? Okay. Raiders should draft the outside linebacker. Facts. 100% facts. First round to help Crosby. He's losing motivation. Next segment. Speaking of next segment, shout out to Maxx Crosby. So Maxx Crosby had his surgery. Is good to go. He quoted, shout out to everyone. New day, new time. Not his words exactly. I don't know how it went. I don't have the quote in front of me. But basically, right, time to come out firing. He says this year, the 8th year in the NFL, will be the best year ever. But we've heard that the last 5 years. We're still waiting for the best year ever. But shout out to Maxx Crosby, man. Glad everything went well. Seems like he's in positive spirits. Seems like he still wants to be a Raider, after he got a little bit of time to think about everything. I've made posts, and I've said on here live that I feel like if there's any year that Max wants out, it's going to be this year because of the fire in the head coach, Pete Carroll. But I believe that report could be wrong, right? I think it could be nothing but further from the truth. If you look at the stuff that was going on in the building, the reports that are coming out, maybe Max maybe Max does want to be a Raider for life, but we shall see. But congrats on the surgery. Hope everything heals fast. Unleashed Raiders. Appreciate you for the $1.99. Good morning, Rebel. What's good? What's good with you, man? How's it going? So, where's the other phone at? What else we got in the news? Had some shits on here. Out of the coaches, where do y'all think they'll land? Where do you think, who's going where? Who's the best fit? I believe Harbaugh, if you're looking at it, right, I'm thinking more like the Giants. You got Jackson Dart over there. You got Scatterboo. You got Malik Neighbors. You got, a pretty decent offensive line. You have all kinds of pieces on the defense. If I'm Harbaugh, if I'm Stefanski, if I'm Mike McDaniels, if I'm any one of these big name coaches, I think the Giants' job is really, really tops of the list. I mean, I don't know about the ownership over there. I'm not positive. Actually, I am positive. I think the GM is on his last leg. It might not make it through the offseason. He might not be picking in the draft. The guys over here talking about AI is how he's choosing players and how he's coming up with head coaches. Crazy world we live in, right? With technology, where a GM for an NFL team can choose his head coach with ChatGPT. ChatGPT. Absolutely flipping wild to me. Wild. All right. Also, we got. Wait, that's not what we got. That's not what we got at all. All right, this is what we got. Shout out to everybody in the building. Patrick Graham. Does Patrick Graham deserve to be a Raider? Are you done with Patrick Graham? Let me know in the comments below. Where do you stand with Patrick Graham? Let me know in the comments if you watch this live later. Where do you stand with Patrick Graham, right? Does he deserve some kind of blame? 4 years with the Raiders. The defense looked like it started to come together last year without Maxx Crosby. They were still, in the middle, right? They weren't as bad with a bunch of injuries. And they were still looked like they were coming up. They were developing players. Well, a lot of those players got cut. But let me know, how do you feel about Patrick Graham? Do you feel like Patrick Graham should be back? Should it time to move on from Patrick Graham? Should he go elsewhere? There is a report that the Commanders have requested an interview with Patrick Graham for the defensive coordinator job. Now, I don't know if he takes this. I don't know if he even takes the interview. I mean, I'm sure he's going to take it just to see what kind of money they're throwing at him or what's going on. But isn't Dan Quinn a Pete Carroll disciple? Didn't he just get stuck this year with Pete Carroll's defense as the coach? Being involved in intermingling in what's supposed to be going on the defensive side of the ball, right? So I don't know, but Adam Schultz reports the Commanders have requested to interview Raiders defensive coordinator Patrick Graham for their defensive coordinator job per source. Which makes sense for them, right? Also, in the news, there are interesting questions that get asked specifically with Atlanta or Miami jobs, asking why are they so desirable if you don't have a quarterback. So with that being said, which jobs? All right, where the fuck did it go? Which jobs are the most desirable in your mind? Take the bias away, take off the Raiders glasses, right? Just look at the roster, look at the owner, look at the minority owner, if there is one with other franchises that will be involved on a daily basis, right? Put all those things together and answer this question from 1 to 10. List your list, right? Of who it is. Because you have where the fuck is my list? Yeah, that's it. Good Lord. Killing myself here. Killing myself. Because you have on this list, right? You have teams like the Falcons. You have the Cleveland Browns. You have the Arizona Cardinals. You have the Tennessee Titans. You have the New York Giants. You have the Baltimore Ravens. You have the Las Vegas Raiders. And now you add the Miami Dolphins to this mix. So out of those teams, Falcons, Browns, Cardinals, Titans, Raiders, Giants, Ravens, and now the Miami Dolphins, where do you rate these teams, right? From top to bottom. Which is the best job? Which is the worst job? Which is the job, oh my God, nobody should take? I'm going to give you my list, right? I'm going to give you my list. I think tops of the list, obviously, it's the Baltimore Ravens. You have Lamar Jackson. I mean, you have a quarterback. You also have Travis Henry. You have a running back. You could tighten up the O-line. You could tighten up the defense. You could go get him a number one receiver in this draft. Wait. Lamar with the number one receiver? Wow. Who would have ever thought that would be a possibility, right? I mean, so I got Baltimore Ravens. Then, of course, to me, it's got to be the New York Giants, right? New York Giants, we talked about their roster a minute ago, right? But they have a damn good backup quarterback. They have maybe two damn good backup quarterbacks if they keep one, but they have Jackson Dart. They have Malik Neighbors. You have a solid offensive line. You have Cam Scatterboo. You have a defense that, you know, is crazy with Burns over there. And then you have, you know, Carter that you just drafted. So one more draft might do it for the Giants, right? They were in some close games. They beat some teams, you know, they only won 3 games, but they beat some teams they probably shouldn't have beat. Well, minus us. So I believe the Baltimore Ravens is the best job out there right now. So the number one head coach, which is probably Kubiak, right? I'll get to my quarterback, my coaching list of where they're at. But Kubiak is probably on that list. So Baltimore Ravens, New York Giants, and then with no bias to it, right? I got the Las Vegas Raiders. I believe the Las Vegas Raiders job is right up there, if not above the New York Giants, right? If you're looking at our roster, you have a Ashton Genty, check. You have a Brock Bowers, check. Offensive line, DJ Glaze, JPJ, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, right? You have young talent there. You still have Colton Miller as the anchor for another 2 years. Or you could decide to trade Colton Miller like I tried to do 2 years ago and get draft picks and rebuild this line. But I believe the Raiders' job with $100 million with not having a quarterback, right? Because not every coach is going to love the quarterback you have in the building, right? Which, unless it's Lamar Jackson. I mean, but some coaches prefer a pocket passer like a Sam Darnold, right? Like a Tom Brady type, right? Some of the coaches, some of the offensive coordinators prefer that type. So having your quarterback in the building doesn't always mean you're going to land the best coach, because that might not be the guy that coach wants, right? So when you're looking at the Raiders' job, you got to look at the two biggest things. They have the number one pick in the draft. That that makes your value skyrocket, right? Not only do they have the number one pick in the draft, but they don't have a quarterback in the building. They have Aiden O'Connell. They have Kenny Pickett. That's probably not going to be here next year. They also have Geno Smith. Don't believe Geno Smith will be in the building next year. However, with the reports coming out that Geno was working with the offensive line on the down low, trying to get better, might say a lot for Geno Smith. And maybe, just maybe Hondo Carpenter was right, and maybe Geno Smith stays around next year, which would surprise a lot of people, including myself. But I believe the Las Vegas Raiders is the third best job out there. But then the Miami job came up. So you have to throw the Miami job kind of right next to it, right? But again, they don't have a quarterback. They have Quinn Ewers. Not a lot of people drafted Quinn Ewers, right? He fell to the 7th round. So how many teams really want Quinn Ewers as their quarterback, and how many head coaches are willing to take that job knowing Quinn Ewers might be the starter over there? So I got Baltimore Ravens, the New York Giants, the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 4, I'm going to go Tennessee Titans. I got Miami and the Raiders kind of even, because neither one has a true quarterback. Both have running backs. Both have, solid weapons on the offense and guys on the defense, right? That you could build around and make it a solid defense. So Tennessee Titans, I'm going to say, is the 4th or 5th, however you're looking at it, with Miami being in there now. Best job, right? You got a Cam Ward that has all the upside in the world. You have, a decent running game. The O-line needs tightened up. You have receivers. You have, a whole nother draft to get it right. So I look for that job to be very, very enticing for, maybe a lot of people don't think, but a guy like a Harbaugh, right? That would be a great job. In my opinion, for a Harbaugh, you got a young, mobile, athletic quarterback that could throw the hell out of the ball, could run any system you pretty much need to, right? Then I got the Arizona Cardinals. The Cleveland Browns. Cardinals, they need a quarterback. That's enticing. They have a pretty solid team, right? They were in a lot of games, a lot more than the Raiders were in the games that we played. So the Cardinals, they have promising receivers, young receivers. Pretty enticing job. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of these names, like, Kevin Stefanski, ends up as the Arizona Cardinals head coach, right? These guys like Harbaugh and Stefanski are gonna want, all the power they can have, right? They're gonna want power over the roster. They're gonna want power over, the current roster, the upcoming roster, the draft, and what teams are willing to give those to them, right? I don't see I don't see the Ravens doing the same thing they did with Harbaugh and giving all the power to Harbaugh, because, their drafts haven't been the greatest over there. The Giants, with gone over there, possibly. The Raiders, I don't see giving all the control to anybody, no matter who comes in. You have Brady, that everybody knows. Brady's nose, Brady's hands, Brady's fingers are all over this team from afar, right? Whether it's from a phone call, whether it's not. And I don't believe the Raiders are one of those jobs that's going to land a Stefanski, that's going to land, even a Mike McDaniel, right? I don't see him coming in. He's going to want power too. So the Raiders' best bet might go with the young guy like a Sam Webb, like a get to Thomas Brown later, like a Thomas Brown. And then the Cleveland Browns. I got Cleveland Browns as 6th on the list, the bottom of the list. You don't know what's going on over there with Shador. He hasn't looked great. He needs a whole nother year. He needs another quarterback coach. Probably needs, maybe an attitude adjustment still, thinking he's the shit over there with the 18.5 QBR he had this year. That Raider fans were screaming, grab Shador, grab Shador. Could you imagine what this year would have looked like with Shador and that offensive line? Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. So, let's get into these comments before we lose everybody real quick. John 7 Studio says Baltimore, Atlanta, Cleveland, Miami, Arizona, Tennessee, New York, and Las Vegas. Okay. That's like the total opposite of my list. I think we had Baltimore right. I had Atlanta at the bottom. You got them at number 2. You know, my reason for having Atlanta at the bottom, if y'all want to know, is you got Kirk Cousins. You got Kirk Cousins. You don't know, up and down, up and down. They finished the year kind of strong over there. You do have a Bijan Robinson. You do have a solid offensive line. It's not the greatest, but it's definitely workable. It's ahead of a lot more offensive lines youth wise. So I don't know, man. I think with the Michael Penix injury, I think that might defer a lot of people away from that Atlanta job. And I believe Atlanta getting rid of a defensive coach. I think they're gonna go offensive minded, right? Then you got Cleveland. The Cleveland job does look promising, but when you look at the ownership, when you look at the problems that Stefanski has had since he's been there, right? If you look at the problems that every every coach has had being with the Browns, right? That's another owner that's mingling, that that has an attitude problem, right? He talks to players like shit. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think Cleveland is the third best job. Then you got Miami, Arizona, Tennessee, New York. And so how could you say New York is I guess if you're looking at their general manager situation, but like I said, that general manager more than likely is not going to make it probably the next month, I don't think. But let me know, John, why you got New York and Vegas at the bottom. They stick with Tua for like 3 more years. Not now. There's no way they stick with Tua for 3 more years, bro. Come on, Brutus. There's no way. Why blow me down? Um, I just don't see that happening, man. Talk up. Nobody's here, G. I don't think nobody's here. But, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. Tua, as much as his contract is, there's a reason they fired Mike McDaniel. He was the one that wanted Tua. He was the one that somebody's at the door. Somebody's here. Greatest alarm system of all time. But yeah, with Tua's contract, man, as much as Tua's contract is, I think the Dolphins are moving on from him. It was Mike, McDaniels that wanted him in the building anyways. He vouched for him, vouched for him, vouched for him. And it just never worked out. The concussions, the inconsistency, the inaccuracy, just never really clicked. So I don't believe Tua's going to stay there. And I don't know how many teams take a chance on him, to be honest, really. Let's go Miami. So who y'all got for the Miami job? This dog gotta start fucking barking, bro. Jesus Christ, man. And we back with no dog barking. Jesus Christ, man. What we got? Don't forget Buffalo. They lose this week. I was getting there. Thank you, Raider First Downs. Don't forget Buffalo. They lose this week. McDermott is gonna be canned. I definitely believe the dude should be on the hot seat. I mean, absolutely on the hot seat. But do they, do they promote within? You got Joe Brady over there. Why not? I mean, why not just promote them within? So that might not be too high of a commodity job because it might not be open very long. But I guess if they fire him, they got to do their due diligence and meet the Rooney Rule and get all the interviews in. But that would be a the Buffalo Bills can't afford to lose this game, bro. If they lose this game, McDermott's gonna be fired, and that team's gonna be blown up. It's gonna be blown up like gone, right? There's just no way they constantly make the playoffs. They're right there. They just can't get over the hump. If you can't get over the hump and you fire your head coach, you probably don't keep a lot of those players. So look for that team to possibly be in a full rebuild or at least a half rebuild. They have a lot of weapons, but they have a lot of things that need to be fixed over there with the Buffalo Bills. The way that roster is built, and they just can't put it all together. So yeah, and for the Buffalo Bills, what a shitty. I mean, come on. You have the 1 year. We talked about this before. The 1 year Kansas City is not in the playoffs. The 1 year the Ravens, Baltimore are not in the playoffs. And it should be the Buffalo Bills that's, been on top and top and top of that division year in and year out that just can't get past those two teams. And you should be sliding right in, right? No. You got to face the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the best teams in the AFC. Maybe one of the best teams in all of football right now. That team is clicking. Liam Cohen's got that team fired up. He's got them believing, that they the shit. And they are. They're playing like it. So, man, the Buffalo Bills, bro, they got it rough. They got it rough. If they lose this game, yeah, it's very, very, very bad. Davis Webb. We got Davis Webb. Top 5 defense already. Worst online, by the way, because of injuries. Yes. So this guy don't know ball. Who don't know ball? What are you talking about? Cleveland is being slept on. Man, I know defense. I know they got Myles Garrett. I know he just broke the sack record. Shit. What team has Myles Garrett? The Cleveland Browns, bro. Just broke the sack record. 23. That sat for a long ass time, right at 22 and a half from 2 different players. There's only one problem. They made one bad mistake this time. What? Really, really bad mistake, if I'm being honest. Well, spit it out, bro. Spit it out. New York owner is fighting cancer, and the family's getting set themselves up for a press to press off football operations. Schoen is not very good, right? And he's had a lot of misses in the draft. Harbaugh wants his own GM. Schoen, like I said, man, I don't believe that dude makes it the rest of this month. I just don't feel like he's that, he's that type of dude. They've missed a lot, and they have a decent team over there. They just can't seem to put it together. And I guess if you're picking guys off of AI and Chat GPT, that's kind of why, right? Bills probably beat the Jags, honestly. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I think the Jags upset him with Liam Cohen over there. I think he might be a better coach than McDermott. I really feel like that. Yes. Yep. Got it taken care of. Cool beans. All right, man. So all the comments are done. We are at the bottom of the list. Bottom of the list. Give you a couple things, right? The Baltimore Ravens are widely considered the top job due to the MVP, due to two-time MVP Lamar Jackson, a strong supporting cast, Derrick Henry, solid defense, and a proving winning organization. only vacancy with a clear elite franchise quarterback, right? None of these other teams have that, but two of them have top draft picks and could probably get those. The New York Giants, high market appeal, of course. Young franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart, and the potential for a quick turnaround despite the poor 2025 record with their last couple drafts. Right, one more receiver, and the Giants could be there. The Falcons, competitive roster with a winnable division, decent cap space, but some uncertainty after cleaning house. That's why I had them down my list more. The Las Vegas Raiders, talented pieces, Brock Bowers, potentially Maxx Crosby. I find it crazy that they said potentially Maxx Crosby. Um, crazy wording of words, right? Potentially Maxx Crosby when he's still on the roster for 3 more years. New stadium, great market, but the question is quarterback stability and keeping a coach in the building. What coaches want to go to a job that has Tom Brady calling the shots and, just I think they're looking for a yes man. I really feel like that. I do. All these big name coaches, everybody's saying Kubiak, saying this. Don't be surprised. You heard it here. Don't be surprised if the Las Vegas Raiders go the way nobody is expecting and go with somebody that's willing to just say, sure, Tom Brady. Yes, sir, Brady. Yes, sir, Mr. Spytek. Right? Because I think they both have a vision of how they want this team ran and how they want it to go, but they can't do it themselves. So what better way than to get in a young 31-year-old guy that doesn't have an experience, that you can develop him as a head coach the way you want to develop him, right? To me, it makes sense. All the sense in the world. Get out, Steelers are better. Why are you trolling, bro? Bro, what's up? Do you think about Mike McDaniel's offensive coordinator? I don't believe the Raiders are interviewing anybody for the offensive coordinator job. I said that a minute ago. I believe Spytek is a man of his word. He has been, so far, right? Except for the fact that he believes in keeping guys in-house and not letting your best players go. Other than that, right? He seemed to, kind of be a stand-up guy. We'll see, right? There's always smoke screens. But I believe Spytek is that dude. And if Spytek says, if Spytek says this is a slow rebuild, then I believe it's a slow rebuild, and I believe they're going to do their due diligence. But I don't believe they're looking for an offensive coordinator right now. I believe he's going to let his coach pick his staff, and there's no reason to interview a guy like a Davis Webb, for an offensive coordinator position. I believe it's more just to pick his brain, to see where he would go with the quarterback. Does he want Mendoza? Does he want more? Would he wait next year for a quarterback? Does he like the quarterbacks in that draft? I think that's what all these interviews right now are going to be, because a lot of them are just phone interviews from what I gather, because these teams are still in the playoffs. So you can't do in-person interviews until they're at least out of the playoffs, right? The Tennessee Titans, they have Cam Miller, as mentioned. Rebuild potential, but coming off a rough season. But there's a lot of weapons there in the last couple years. The Cleveland Browns is complicated because of Deshaun Watson. I think I just said that. Contract and recent struggles include drafting Shedeur Sanders. They put that in their list also. Drafting Shedeur Sanders, they saying it was a setback. Plus, there's cap issues. That's another thing with Cleveland Browns. You might have a damn good team. You might have killed it in the draft last year, but you have cap issues, and no coaches are willing to come into a team that is at the bottom of the barrel with minimal cap space, and 5 or 6 draft picks, right? Nobody's going to take that. So the teams that have the most capital, the most draft picks, are the biggest markets, like Vegas, like New York. I think they're going to be the front runners for these top coaches. But I just don't feel like Vegas is going to land one of these guys. I really feel like, not to be rude, but they want more of a yes man, right? They want more of somebody that Tom Brady can say, this is the way I think a team should be ran, and this is how we're gonna work on it, right? That's just the way I feel they're going. So a latest list has come out of who they think the best head coaches are for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I don't know if they did their homework with the whole Brian Flores and the Maxx Crosby thing. I don't know if they did their homework with the Brian Flores and the Tom Brady thing. I don't know if they did their homework at all. But these are theirs. Clint Kubiak, number one, top of the board. He's a Shanahan tree, offensive quarterback friendly. He's he's innovative, perfect for easing a young rookie quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore into the NFL. Multiple reports confirm the interview for him. It's just tomorrow, Friday. And he's a betting favorite. Next up, they have Brian Flores, defense mastermind with head coaching experience with the Dolphins. He'd bring intensity and scheme versatility. Current betting odds leader in several books. And he is available to maximize talent, aligns with our defensive core with guys like Maxx Crosby. So that's where they got him. John Harbaugh, they have third on the list for the Las Vegas Raiders. Recently fired from the Ravens. Proven winner with the Super Bowl ring. An elite culture building, which is what the Raiders needed, which is why they tried to go after Pete Carroll. It just didn't work. If available, he'd be a home run for stability. Through his offensive learning, might need a strong OC hire. Could you imagine getting Harbaugh in the building and bringing him Mike McDaniels? I think it would help Harbaugh. I think it would help Harbaugh, right? With the coaching in the offense. I think it would help Mike McDaniels trying to get a job next year or possibly when Harbaugh moves on. Now, on this channel, I've talked about it many, many times. I said 2 weeks ago, the Brian Flores, Brian Daboll thing that's blowing up on the internet and everybody's talking about. We've been trying to pair, not just find a head coach, but a head coach and an offensive coach and a defensive coordinator that would fit together. Go back and watch my live from last Thursday. We broke it down. We gave 7 different, pairings of head coach, DC, and offensive coordinator. Go back and check out that list. Comment in the video. Let me know how you like it. Double tap the screen for 25 people in here. I appreciate y'all watching. But Harbaugh, recently fired. Proven winner, Super Bowl ring, elite culture building, the available to be a home run for stability. But he needs a staff, right? He needs a staff. And man, there's some guys out there that could be on the staff. Could you imagine? Just imagine, put this in your little brain, in the little temple, and mix it around like the little hamster wheel. Throw Harbaugh in the mix. Not only do you face your brother twice a year in the AFC West, that is going to put asses in the seats. That is going to put eyes on the TV, right? Everybody's going to be all eyes on the AFC West battle between the Raiders and the Dischargers, right? Harbaugh came in, changed the culture around like that. He's in the playoffs the last 2 years, right? You don't think John Harbaugh could come in and do the same? A guy that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody in the chat, but I believe has a better overall record than his brother, Jim. So, might be wrong. Let me know. But Harbaugh in the AFC West with the Raiders twice a year, every year until they decide to go. Also, you're going to bring in a staff that's going to bring in high names with the possibility of a Mike McDaniels, with the possibility of a Brian Daboll. Could you imagine Brian Daboll instead of with Flores, with a guy like Harbaugh, and possibly keeping a guy like Patrick Graham in the building? You have Patrick Graham learning from a guy like Harbaugh. You have Brian Daboll, learning from a guy like him. And if he decides to retire in 2 or 3 years when his contract's up, probably more like a 5-year deal, I'm sure, if he's taking a job. But if he decides to retire in 5 years, you have Brian Daboll, if he's not, picked up by somebody else by then as a head coach. as your OC, right? You could keep guys in the building like a Luke Steckel that's great with this tight end room. You could keep guys in the building um, like Joe Philbin that I still, still believe should be in this building and really has been overlooked for the Las Vegas Raiders. But a Harbaugh and DeBall would be a nasty, nasty, nasty combination. I think it'd be filthy. You have two head coaches, two masterminds, right? Everybody says Harbaugh is a special teams guy. He's just a special teams coach. Okay, so if you're just a special teams coach, so your hands will be completely out of my offense if I'm Brian Daboll, if I'm Mike McDaniels, right? Those seem like high scenarios for me. If I'm the offensive coordinator and you're telling me I could go to a team like the Las Vegas Raiders and just run my offense with a Brock Bowers, with the Ashton Genty, and I get to pick my quarterback, come on, man. That puts that job way, way, way up there, in my opinion. Kevin Stefanski, two-time Coach of the Year, offensive expertise, right? He's navigated through tough situations before he could steady the ship while developing a young quarterback. And man, the Raiders need their ship steadied more than anything on the planet right now. They have Robert Saleh, who has not even been, in the talks of the interviews. It was a big name before, all this shit came out. But he's a guy that, is with the 49ers. They're in the playoffs this week, so you can't really be over there trying to poach these quarterbacks. Poach these coaches. Motivative leader, with the Jets as HC head coaching experience, strong defensive background. We know familiarity with the West Coast ties, and he command respect in the locker room. Which, man, I think Pete Carroll had this respect in the locker room, but that soft ass coaching, tapping everybody on the ass, giving people hugs, trying to wrestle with dudes laying on the ground while you're elbowing them in the face. Even though don't matter how small you are, when you elbow somebody on the ground that's laying that's laying there, they're not gonna be happy, right? So, I think Pete Carroll's coaching philosophy was a little whack this year. And a guy like Robert Saleh would be way different, but he does come from that Pete Carroll tree, right? So, Jesse Minter. They have number 6, defensive coordinator, rising star, Michigan roots. Under Harbaugh, young, energetic, about schemes that generate turnovers. Great for pairing with the offensive-minded staff. Now, I know you're not going to get Jesse Minter to leave Harbaugh, who's done, everything for him the last couple years, and put him in a spot where he's, I know he's helped, but put him in a spot where he's even mentioned in those categories for a head coaching job, right? I don't see him leaving for a defensive, coordinator job, but it does make sense to pair him, with a young offensive-minded staff. Maybe you could get a Jesse Minter, and I don't know where his ties run or how deep his roots run, but maybe you could pull on a Jesse Minter and a Mike McDaniels, right? That could be nasty too. Two former, a new head coach with a former head coach that can help you, learn the ropes as you're picking it up because, right, Jesse Minter never been a head coach before, so he's got to learn as it goes. So if you're getting a guy that's never been a head coach before, is what I'm saying, right? And there's a lot of them. We're interviewing some right now, haven't been head coaches. If you're interviewing a guy that's never been that head coach, it makes sense to have guys like, Patrick Graham and Joe Philbin in the building that have been through these, changes over and over again. But it makes more sense to have your offensive coordinator, a guy like a Mike McDaniels, who's been a head coach that can help your young head coach, with the struggles of being a new head coach. So I think that would be, great. The ball, we haven't heard him getting any interviews, right? We haven't heard any talk of Brian Daboll, which to me is very, very surprising. You think his name would be, blowing up, and there'd be all kinds of people blowing up his phone. Just what he's did with Josh Allen, what he's done this year with Jackson Dart, right? You'd think that name would just be a little bit higher on the list, but it's not. Next up, they have Cliff Kingsbury, number 7 on the list. Jobs for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I think this job is absolutely out of the question. Kind of like the mentor job. I just don't think mentor is even in the scenario for the Las Vegas Raiders unless he just wows them in an interview, if they even offer him one. You know, Cliff Kingsbury, what he did with the Las Vegas Raiders last year, he said he would be their offensive coordinator, and then, got a phone call saying, hey, we're going to take this guy, Jaden Daniels. Would you like to be the offensive coordinator and mentor him? And, he left the Raiders at the altar. And I just don't think that's, forgivable in 1 year, right? So you do my Raiders dirty. I don't think you should be even in the talks, no matter how good of a quarterback whisperer you are. He's never been a great head coach. And for Cliff Kingsbury, peace, I'm out. But he is. It says air raid background ideal for a modern quarterback development. Proven to work with rookie signal callers and could unlock big play potential. But I'm out. Move on that. Mike McCarthy, another name a lot of people don't want. But all he does is win, 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 no matter what, right? 12 wins pretty much every season. Makes it to the playoffs. Doesn't win in the playoffs. Is it him? Is it his team? Is it the quarterback folding like a lawn chair? We don't know. Will he get another job? I'm sure very, very soon. And I think Mike McCarthy would be a damn good fit over there with the Cleveland Browns. You have Shedeur Sanders, who they said is going to be their quarterback going into next year. What's going to be a next segment. But let me know how you feel about the Cleveland Browns with no head coach saying Shedeur Sanders will be their quarterback next year. To me, that makes no sense. And it doesn't help you bring in a guy unless they're really, really high on Shedeur and feel like they can make it work with Shedeur. I don't think that was the right move by Cleveland Brown to put that out there. But Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl winner with the Cowboys. Experience, offensive savvy, a veteran presence. Though we need to modernize some elements, which is the problem we had with Pete Carroll. Unmodernized offense, unmodernized defense, wanting to run a cover 3 49% of the time is not going to work in the NFL. So you got to modernize it, and you got to be willing to bring in guys that could modernize it. So Mike McCarthy is number 8. Joe Brady slides all the way to number 9. Let me know what you think about Joe Brady, and let me know what you think about this list so far. Let me go back over it. We got Clint Kubiak at number 1, Brian Flores at number 2, John Harbaugh at number 3, Kevin Stefanski number 4. Number 5, we have Robert Saleh. Number 6, we have Jesse Minter. Number 7, we have Cliff Kingsbury. Number 8, we have Mike McCarthy, and number 9 is Joe Brady. Joe Brady, creative play caller, who has elevated Josh Allen, a young offensive mind that could translate well to rebuild with a high-pick quarterback. Who's picking high? The Raiders. Number 1 pick in the draft. I think Joe Brady, with what he did in college, go back and look at his record. Do I got to tell you where it was? Let me know. But go back and look. What he's done in the NFL. I mean, I really thought the Bengals would get rid of their head coach and Joe Brady would slide over there with Joe Burrow and, have that little reunion. But, man, I don't know. So they got Joe Brady number 9. And then number 10 on the list, I find very, very, very fascinating. But they have, out of all the coaches, number 10 on their list for the Las Vegas Raiders head coaching job is Davis Webb. Yeah, that's right there. Davis Webb. Bink. Davis Webb, number 10. Exceptional optional with deep organization knowledge. Young. Relatable to players. And we're ready to set, and they're setting up an interview. They already had an interview, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's why he made the list. But let me know. Davis Webb. Joe Brady, Mike McCarthy, Cliff Kingsbury, Jesse Minter, Robert Saleh, Kevin Stefanski, John Harbaugh, Brian Flores, and Clint Kubiak. Where do you stand out of those names? If you had to pick right now and they had a gun to your head and they said, look, this is the last chance. You need to right now make a decision. Who do you want? Who you picking? Who you picking? What's up, bro? What do you think about? I got Mike McDaniels, Steelers, Trolls. Get a life. Yes, get a life. Texans are about to destroy the Steelers. Hot take, hot take. I think the Steelers might have got a little spark, right? You have your quarterback, veteran quarterback, out there trying to fight back tears, with the fact that he came in, made it through the season, talking shit on the Jets, right? I think it might be a little spark that they need. You see the head coach um, over there jumping up and down, right? Mike Tomlin looked very, very, very excited, tickled to death that they made the playoffs, ended up 10-7 again. All the talks of him being fired. I look for the Steelers to go on a run. I look for the Steelers to upset some people. And it would be crazy to have Aaron Rodgers, you heard it here first, walk out into the sunset with a Super Bowl championship. Would be absolutely crazy. But with their defense, with that run game, you know what controls the NFL playoffs, right? Defense wins championships. And the Steelers, they've given up a whole lot of yards, but they do enough. They do just enough. This might be the last game we see Mike Tomlin coach. Okay. Well, I just did that whole hype session of Mike Tomlin. I don't think it is. I don't think you get rid of Mike Tomlin, but nobody thought they were going to get rid of, of Harbaugh either. So we go into the Super Bowl. Oh, that's crazy. I hope they're smart and not firing Harbaugh. I'm good of him. Not hiring Harbaugh. I'm good off him. I would rather go Klubiak. Leaky T. Let me know why. Let me know why. They got Harbaugh third on the list, and I'm not saying, Harbaugh is that guy, should be that guy, but it makes sense to me, man. It makes sense to me if you could land a guy like that. But again, I just don't see it being the pick. I don't see Brady giving up the power that Harbaugh's going to want. But it would be a great story, man. It would be a great story. I'm sure the AFC West would be on Hard Knocks again next year, featuring the Raiders and the Chargers, two brothers going at it in the division. It would be a great story. It would be a great story. But I don't think the Raiders and Harbaugh is a match made in heaven. But you never know. You never know. If they want to win and rebuild, seems like the right way to go. Steelers are finished with no life from Mike Tomlin. About to have a low win team this next season by Felicia. You crazy, bro. You crazy. Mike Tomlin never has a low win team. They are always up there at the top of the top of the top. Harbaugh giving Pete Carroll 2.0. I get it. I get it. But he is almost 15 years younger than Pete Carroll, bro. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Big, big difference, right? 15 years? Come on, man. Listen, we're not talking about a guy that's decrepit, about ready to walk on a cane like Pete Carroll was. A guy that, is maybe a year or two away from somebody wiping his ass the rest of his life, right? We ain't that far. We don't need Harbaugh. He might want too much control. That's what I said exactly. And this is spy tech control. Yeah, but however, I get that. But if you're spy tech and Harbaugh is going to bring in, like I said, a top name defensive coordinator, a top name offensive coordinator, a top name special teams coordinator, he's going to bring in top name guys. And if you can get him to bring in top name guys for 2 or 3 years and leave one of those guys, as the next guy, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. I really don't. And if Spytech says, look, you tell me what personnel you want, I'm going to get you the guys. You run the offense, which he said he was going to do, right? He's going to have his hands in on it, but hopefully more than it was last year. Hell yeah, I feel like Spytech would build something like they did in Tampa. I really like Spytech, man. I'm on the Spytech train. I believe when this man speaks, people listen. I like the fact that he's not afraid to stick up to Tom Brady, tell him when he's wrong. I think Tom Brady likes that also. He said in his interview, right? And I like his thoughts, right? I like the way he says, you know, we're trying to win, but it's a rebuild, right? It's a rebuild. We want to build for longevity. We want to build for the future. We're not trying to win right now, right? We're trying to get better so we can win every year, right? They don't want to just be the Washington Commanders, go get a quarterback in the draft, make it to the NFC Championship, and then next year you're back in the top 5 picks. Come on, man. That's what the Washington Commanders did, right? Now I know JD5 got hurt, but still, you have Marcus Mariota, you have Cliff Kingsbury, who's supposed to be the guru that everybody wants. That's why I'm out on Cliff Kingsbury, right? You had Marcus Mariota, you had a solid core over there. You have a very good tight end. You have a top wide receiver in all of the NFL over there, and the Commanders couldn't make it work, and that's why Cliff Kingsbury left. I don't think it was a mutual departing. I think Campbell. I think Coach was like, "Man, I'm gonna bring in somebody else. This ain't working, right?" That's what it looks like to me. Please pick Dante. We need another guy on the Jets. What? The other guy? You don't even know his name? You want the other guy? I think that other guy would be Mendoza, but it could possibly be Ty Simpson, who is now entered into the NFL draft, right? As a Jags fan, we're going to belt to ass for the Bills, and Myers going to get a touchdown and be trading him, and be what? And be treating him good for y'all. I appreciate the Jags taking care of Jacoby Myers, man. He needs it. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to Rosetown in the building. Shout out to everybody else that's in here. Appreciate y'all. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, double tap the screen. Like, subscribe, follow, tickle the notification bell. It likes it. Turn it on to be notified when I drop new content or put out videos. I just pull up like this. So yeah, man, I like Jacoby Myers, and I hope, and I pray that he has a killer playoffs. I hope they make it deep into the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, because it would be a great story for Jacoby Myers, to be dogged like he got dogged with this organization, to be treated like he was treated, a piece of trash, when all he did was come here and give his heart. That hard hat guy that did anything you asked, doesn't drop balls. And the Raiders, I think they dropped the ball with this one. They could take that 4th round, 6th round pick and shove it up their ass. Jacoby Myers is worth way more than that. And I hope he just keeps showing out. I hope he has a huge game in the playoffs. I hope they beat the Bills. Good point about Spytek. Might let the head coach choose his staff. Spytek said he would. That's what he said in his last interview. He said, my belief as a GM is the coach is to choose his staff. So there's a lot of people saying we're interviewing guys already as offensive coordinators, but that's not the case. It's not the case. If Spytek is a man of his word and he stands on business, right, he's going to let the coach pick his staff. We got 11 draft picks already. Yes, we do. We got three picks in the 4th round. The first or second pick in the 4th round, and then 2 more. So we have drafts capital, man. And again, Spytek, when he was hired for the Las Vegas Raiders, if you don't remember, I do. I'll never forget. It's embedded in my brain. The first thing Spytek said was, I come from a foundation, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where 53 of their starting roster players, out of the 53 starting roster players, the Tampa Bay Bucks had 43 guys. 43. That is 10 guys that weren't drafted from that team on the roster. Only 10. That's amazing to me. That means the Tampa Bay Bucks, almost everybody on that roster that starts, that is on the 53 man, were guys that were drafted from that organization. And that is what Spytek believes. That is his foundation. That's what he said. That's what he stands on. Now, he came in the first year and let Trayvon Moore go. He let Nate Hobbs go. He let Divine Diablo go, right? All guys that were drafted Raiders. He said he made a huge mistake. He needs to do better. So, does he stand on business? Bless you. So far, it's been up and down. He said things that haven't stood true, right? They haven't held their weight. But if he does stand on business and he lets these guys do their job, it would make sense to have a coach with experience that has, you know, a clique in here, right? The NFL is all about little cliques and groups. They have their little groups. They have, just like everywhere else. Um, they have their little circles, right? Their little NFL circles. And who do you know in those circles, right? If you're a head coach and you're getting a head coaching job, this is the biggest question every head coach interview is going to be asked. Who's your OC? Who's your DC? Who's your special teams coordinator? Who's your defensive back coordinator? Who's your linebacker, right? Who are your guys? Because if you don't know who your offensive coordinator is, who your offensive line coach is, if you don't already have names in your head that you know you can bring in guaranteed, you're not going to get a head coaching job in the NFL. So guys like Davis Webb, who are his guys? Who does he have that he could say, I could bring in these guys and I know they're going to work, right? Those are huge questions. But guys like Harbaugh, guys like even Mike McDaniels, guys like Stefanski, right? They've been in this game for a while. They've been in the circles. They've been on a lot of teams. They have a lot more people that they could call to try to put in places that they need to be put in. Last time Raiders were good, Lyle Alzado played as a long time ago. That wasn't the last time we were good. I mean, yes, we were great with Lyle Alzado and Howie Long and that dominating defensive front. But that wasn't the last time we were good. Harbaugh and Monken to Cleveland? Question. I mean, I could see that. If he feels like Shador is that guy. I don't know how Harbaugh feels about a Shador or a Dylan Gabriel. Those are their two quarterbacks, but they have a top pick this year. Maybe they move up to number one and they go get a Fernando Mendoza. If Harbaugh wants that. How about that? Hot take. How about Harbaugh decides he wants to go to Cleveland and they want to move up to number one to get Fernando Mendoza? Maybe, right? They bring in Monken, can help develop the young Fernando. Pick Dante. We need Mendoza. Bro, I'm not the picker. Who the hell's phone is ringing? I don't know what the hell that is. I don't have a phone in my house. Okay, I'm at work. Have a good day. Appreciate you. Shout out for the 199. Appreciate you. I'll be back to watch the stream later. Thoughts on Davis Webb, Bronco quarterback, offensive game coordinator? I really like Davis Webb. I think he's, 31 years old. He reminds me a lot of the Sean McVay story, right? An up-and-coming guy that, was the quarterback whisperer, that when he got his chance, he hit the ground running. And a lot of people said Sean McVay was way too young. A lot of people said Sean McVay didn't have, enough, enough people around him, enough guys that he could bring in to build and mold a team, right? A lot of people said the same thing with Gruden. I remember the Las Vegas Raiders taking a chance on Gruden, who never had coaching experience. Well, that worked out pretty good, right? So good that they had to trade him before they went to the Super Bowl, right? So it worked out good the first time. The second time they cut his head off. But, Gruden worked out very, very well in the NFL. And I believe Davis Webb is kind of that story, a little bit different. He played quarterback, so he knows the position, right? He knows. I've seen a lot of interviews. Go check out Coach Steinfeld. Coach Stanfield on X. Go check it out. Go read what he said about Davis Webb. I talked about it yesterday. I read a little bit. You can go back and watch that live. I really like Davis Webb, man. I think it's not just an offensive coordinator job like a lot of people are saying. I believe they're interviewing this dude for the head coaching job. And, the Raiders have done it before. The Al Davis, if you're a Raiders fan, as long as I've been a Raiders fan, right? 50 years. If you've been a Raiders fan as long as I have, you remember Al Davis hiring and firing Lane Kiffin, right? Lane Kiffin was a young up-and-coming mind. What was he, 32, 33 or something? Very, very young. I don't remember the exact number. John Gruden, again, was one of those youngest coaches ever, you know, ever to get a head coaching job in the NFL. Does Mark Davis go that way? I don't know how much Mark Davis is in on that, but Tom Brady might want to go with the young coach, like I said, to have, a guy that you can influence, right? Not a yes man, but a guy that you can influence in your decisions on how you want your team that you're the minority owner and, whatever else you're running, how you want it to go. So I wouldn't be mad at Davis Webb, bro. At this point, we've tried everything, right? And we tried Antonio Pierce. That didn't work because they ran him out of the building way too fast. I mean, shit. I'm at this point, like I said, I'm down for anything. Harbaugh is too stubborn, like Carroll. Good off that. JPJ is my center. Yeah, JPJ might be your center, but it doesn't mean he's the Raiders center, and it doesn't even mean he could be on the Raiders next year, right? A head coach might come in and say, "Damn, I like Caleb Rogers way more than I like JPJ, and I don't think JPJ fits anywhere but the right side. Let's trade him. Let's move off." So don't be shocked. Don't be shocked that when a new coach comes in, some of these guys that we fall in love with or y'all fall in love with. I know better after 50 years, but some people are already out there buying Mendoza jerseys and shit. Crazy, crazy. Because what you gonna do with that jersey when he's not drafted? You're gonna look like a dumbass with a Mendoza jersey. So I don't know. I think JPJ is better at guard. I really do. Would I mind him at center? No. I think he could develop into a damn good center. But around the league, there's a lot of people that feel the same way. They don't feel he was a center fit. I think he just got put in that position because that's what Raider Nation was screaming for. Raider Nation got their way. It didn't work out great. I mean, it wasn't bad, and I believe he could play center. But if the people in the building don't, there ain't shit we can do about it. So look for JPJ to possibly be a guard next year, possibly be a center. We'll see. Ravens drafted too well for Harbaugh to gamble on Brady. Spytex players evaluation to work in the draft with no prior experience. Well, maybe a guy like Harbaugh could come in and help with the experience for Spytech, right? I think that's what they tried to do with Pete Carroll. They had a young general manager that they believe in. They gave a 5-year deal to. They believe that's the future, and this dude's going to help turn this franchise around. And, I don't think it's Harbaugh, bro. I've said this before, but Harbaugh wants Monken. That's why he left Baltimore. And, that wouldn't be a bad fit either, right? The Raiders, didn't they interview Todd Monken for the head coaching job last year? If they have their eyes on Monken, maybe they bring in Harbaugh, and then say, shit, it didn't work. We're keeping Monken, we're firing you, and we're promoting him to to the head coaching job. But yeah, the whole getting fired because of your OC thing doesn't make sense to me. So shout out for the loyalty, and I think with that loyalty that Harbaugh is showing is the same loyalty that Pete Carroll showed. I'm just, I don't know. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I'm out. You should hire Brian Duvall. Abel is the Raiders' next coach. Why should we hire Brian David? Why should we hire Brian David? Let's get into that. Also, there are some more talks. Get into that real fast. The Las Vegas Raiders have subject to request for, where the hell is it? We talked about Marshawn Lattimore. Oh, the Las Vegas Raiders, breaking news, have put in a request to interview Jets. The Jets? JETSSSSS Jets? I don't know, bro. I don't know. But it says here, the Las Vegas Raiders have requested to interview Jets special team coordinator Chris Banjo? Chris Banjo? For their head coaching vacancy per source. Now, I'm going to have to do a little research on Chris Banjo. So, let's just do it live, right? Let's do it live. Oh, Christopher Banjo. What we got on Mr. Banjo? Let's see. Let's break it down. Born February 26, 1990. Okay, so he's a young pup. Is an American football coach and safety special teams coordinator for the New York Jets. We got all that. He played football at SMU Mustangs, Banjo. He was signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars as an undrafted free agent in 2013. He also played for the Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints, and the Arizona Cardinals. He was 5'10", 207 pounds. None of that shit matters. He's a coach. Coaching. Denver Broncos. Seems like the Las Vegas Raiders are trying to become the donkey way. Just saying. His experience is 2023 to 2024. He is the assistant special teams coach with the Denver Broncos. This year, he moved to the New York Jets, was elevated from assistant special teams to special teams coordinator. And that is all the experience we have on Mr. Banjo. And he is getting a head coaching interview job. Now, I don't know what the Raiders are trying to pull over here, and I don't know what they're doing. But this seems a little wacky to me, bro. A little wacky to me. Now, if you're looking at his job, special teams coordinator, it's starting to make a little bit sense, though, right? You can put it together a little bit. Maybe they are not going to let their head coach pick their staff. Maybe they're going to tell their head coach, this is your staff. You're going to take orders from Tom Brady and John Spytek, and we're going to have you as a yes man, and you will be very, very highly, well paid to be this yes man. Are you in or are you out? Because, 2 years coaching experience as a special teams coordinator. Now, I know Harbaugh was a special teams guru, and he got an NFL coaching job. So this dude might kill it, right? Might walk in there and be like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. This is who I'm firing. This is who I'm firing. This is who I'm hiring. I already have your roster broke down. We're getting rid of this dude, and this dude. And this is who I'm replacing them with. And if you could come in and do that in a Brady system, I think like Ben Johnson did last year, I believe the chances of you getting the job are way higher, way higher, and they are not slim to none. God bless you. Thank you. You're going to get Fernando Mendoza. What does thank you mean? It sounds kind of creepy. When you hit the thumbs up on a computer, it shows a football. Awesome. Browns fans here. Stefanski was good with a bad team, but he needed to go from Cleveland. He could be a good coach for you guys. Shout out Captain Corn. Capped Corn. That's cool. Okay, have a good day. I don't know why people are so out on Stefanski, man. 2-time coach of the year award. Like I said, with all the shit's going on over there with 18 quarterbacks in the last 2 years, 3 years. A guy, Deshaun Watson, making $240 million. I would not be mad if it's Kevin Stefanski. Where do I think he's on their list? I think it's Kubiak. I think it's Stefanski. And right now, I think those are their top 2 guys. I really do. I think those are their top 2. And they're probably going to interview another crazy. I wish y'all the best. Appreciate you, the Black Shark. Which One Piece? One Piece what? Not another quarterback. They have all sucked. That's a trash statement. Carr has never sucked. Carr was the shit on horrible teams with no number 1 and number 2 except for 1 year when he had 2 guys, right? Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. I don't know why the hell I just drew a blank. But other than that, who did Derek Carr have to throw the ball to, man? Come on. How many top running backs, did he have in the NFL? He had a good offensive line. He had no defense. They scored highest in the NFL. Almost every single year they were in the top 10 in scoring and touchdowns with no defense. Get off Carr's nuts, bro. Stop playing. Go Broncos. Raiders suck. Shouldn't have read that out loud. The Raiders are going to suck for the next 10 years. My guy, the Raiders have already sucked for the last 10 years. We can't just keep sucking. And Tarissia says she loves the British Broadcasting Communications. Why do Raiders haven't hired Harbaugh already? What? Why the Raiders haven't hired Harbaugh already is a mistake. Well, for one, they have a Rooney rule. If you don't know what a Rooney rule is, you have to hire or interview so many minorities to make the Rooney rule disappear, right? So they have to do their due diligence for one. You can't just, slap a coach in a position and say, this is yours. You have to interview. You have to know what his future thoughts are. How's he going to change the team? Does he want to trade Maxx Crosby when he comes in here? Because these are questions that will be asked by every head coach. I can guarantee you. Join me tomorrow. We will break down every coach, the most major questions that coaches will be asked that they will have to know. But I could tell you some right off the bat is Mendoza your number one quarterback? Do you mind keeping a Patrick Graham? Do you mind keeping a Robbie Leonard? Do you mind keeping a Luke Steckel, right? I think those three questions are going to be asked every head coach that comes in here. What is your evaluation of this offensive line? Who do we keep? Who do we let go? Who do we replace to make this offensive line better? What is your vision for Brock Bowers? Is he a 2,000-yard wide receiver every year? Is he a 1,000-yard tight end every year? Is he going to get 10 touches a game? Do you want him to have 15 touches a game? Is he your focal point? Are you going to draft a receiver to complement Brock Bowers, right? These are all questions that will be asked, I guarantee you, by everybody that's interviewed in this coaching cycle. What is your evaluation of Maxx Crosby? Do you feel, or are you going to feel, when you come here, like John Gruden did with Khalil Mack, that you can get 2 first rounds for Maxx Crosby, and you're going to rebuild this team from the bottom up, right? And you're going to cornerstone your pillars. You're going to go get your offensive lineman. You're going to go get your quarterback. What are your plans? Do you keep Maxx Crosby? Do you build around Maxx Crosby? And these are all questions you have to answer a head coach. And you can't just hire one without knowing these things, right? Because if you hire a dude that comes in like John Gruden and says, all right, I think Maxx Crosby, I don't think we need you anymore, right? Your services are no longer welcome in the building. We believe that we are going to hold you down for the next 3 years. And by then, you might be closer to the end of your time in the NFL. So we don't want to restrict you of your goal of being the greatest of all time and winning the championship. So we're going to put you on the trading block, and we're going to give you the opportunity to tell us which team you want to go to. I believe the Raiders could do that, right? It makes all the sense in the world. But I guarantee you that question will be asked, because not every coach that's going to come in here is going to look at Maxx Crosby and his 2 surgeries in the last 2 years and one season at 14.5 sacks, and the rest are mid, right? 10 sacks in a season is mid, bro. That's mid nowadays. Guys are having 16, 17, 18, 23. So 10 sacks is mid. That's mid. That's not $30 million. So there's going to be coaches that question whether they trade Maxx, whether they keep Maxx, what they can get for Maxx. And I don't know how much of a mistake Harbaugh is, It might be a good thing that the Raiders decide to go young and build from the bottom to the top, and then they hear. You got time to watch the Raiders lose. You got time to watch One Piece. What? I don't know what that means. What the hell is One Piece? Is that your underwear? Is that your thong? Like what is a one piece? I don't get it. Is that your bathing suit? Like what are we talking about here? Harbaugh doesn't want to go to the shitty Raiders. I don't believe that's a fact. I do not believe that's a fact. I believe any brother would embellish the fact of getting to coach with your brother in the same division against your brother that you grew up, playing football with, learning football with, talking football with, being top football from their father with, right? Like, who wouldn't want the opportunity to come in and try to do the same thing your brother did in the same division, turn a bottom feeding team around to a top team? Who wouldn't? Who in their right mind as a head coach can look at Brock flipping Bowers and say, nah, I could get a better tight end. There's teams with better tight ends. We can get a better one in the draft. What team is going to look at Ashton Genty, who is fourth in the NFL at yards after contact with 1,051 yards after contact this season? He only had 1,321 yards total. Almost all of his yards, minus less than 200, were yards after contact. Which coach is going to come in and look at Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers and say, I don't want this job. I don't want this job. There's no future in it. Come on, man. What coach is going to look at the fact that you have the first overall pick and have a chance to pick your quarterback or move to the next round next year and pick your quarterback there and build this franchise with trading back, right? I think Navy Vet, appreciate you. I believe and feel strongly in my heart that not only is this the top 3 teams, even with Miami job opening, this is one of the top 3 jobs out there. I guarantee you, out of the 7 jobs that are open, and there will be more opening, I guarantee after these playoffs, the Bills, the Packers, watch out for those names to be given the boot, Maxx Crosby boot style, right? Like, subscribe, follow. Smash that like button. Why the fuck are we talking about Cliff who? Cliff Kingsbury? I don't know why we're talking about Cliff Kingsbury. He was just a name that was on a list that I read, but we moved on from that very, very fast, right? If you didn't get the drift, I'm not in a Cliff Kingsbury train. You can't come in and do my Raiders dirty and expect me to just, okay, let's bring him in as head coach. Why? So you could do the same shit as head coach? Wait till the last minute and be like, okay, I don't want this head coaching job, and then we got nobody to pick like we did at the offensive coordinator last year? Hell no to Cliff Kingsbury. You take his Queefberry ass on. Burberry. Nobody said that Shador is our quarterback. Yes, they did. Yes, they did, bro. Are you not a Browns fan? Do you not watch the media? The Browns owner came out and said Shador Sanders will be our quarterback next year going into the season. Come on, man. I'm not even a Browns fan. They said he deserves a chance to fight for a roster spot. Nah, they said it's going to be their guy, bro. It's going to be their guy. They have no choice. It makes plenty of sense. They do have a choice. They could, they could trade up with the Raiders. Give us that capital. Y'all got 2 first-round picks. Let us have them. Come up, get Fernando Mendoza. Let them battle it out with Shador. See who's you got 3 young quarterbacks. That's what the Saints did. Seems like they found their guy. How about Indiana coach? Has anyone talked about maybe enticing a guy to coach the Raiders? I'm glad you brought that up. D-Dog. Let me talk about this. Cignetti. We all know Cignetti is, a top coach. He comes from the Nick Saban tree. Every coach almost all the coaches that are in the playoffs this year come from that Alabama tree, Nick Saban tree, right? Cignetti is a dog. Cignetti is one of those ones. But let me ask you this. What are you going to tell Cignetti? I know you have a big-ass contract. What's his contract? Hold on, before I keep running my mouth. Cignetti's contract with Indiana. Come on, man. Spell this shit right. Hold up. Oh my God. Yeah. Come on, bro. Honestly, can y'all see that? Can y'all see that? Well, if you can't, let me read it to you. Kurt Signetti. Well, I can't read it to you because it just disappeared. Fuck, where'd it go? Oh, there we go. Kurt Signetti has currently just signed an 8-year, $93 million extension. 8-year, $93 million extension. He signed on October 2025, running through November 2033. So, if you're Mark Davis, do you call Stignetti and say, I'm going to buy you out? You call Indiana and say, bro, I got $93 million that I'm going to give you to bring this coach in to coach my team that I don't even know if he can work in the NFL, which he's a Nick Saban dude. Very, very brilliant mind. I think Signetti would work in the NFL anywhere. But do you really think Mark Davis is going to pay $93 million to buy out a college coach just to bring him to the NFL, to have to pay him $15 to $20 million and give him a 10-year deal like a Gruden, which would be, what, $150 mil, $200 million for 10 years? I'm out on Signetti. It's a great thought. It would be a brilliant story. But I keep telling y'all, who's to say that they are even going to draft Fernando Mendoza? There is nobody that is guaranteed Fernando Mendoza, right? There is a lot of talks, but there is still a lot of time left. There is a lot of quarterbacks that haven't came out yet. And if Dante Moore decides to declare from the draft, which the little birdie in my ear said it was, 90-10 that he was staying in school. Then it was 60-40 that he was staying in school. Then it was 51-49 that he was staying in school. And now all of a sudden, the little birdie in my ear says it's more like 80-20 that he comes out and enters the NFL draft. Looking at the next year's draft and all the quarterbacks that are going to be out there, Sorsby, Manning, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Sellers, a crazy list of quarterbacks next year. So, True Raider Podcast, let's do. Appreciate you, man. Davis Webb interviewed yesterday. Yes, we talked about that last night. Brady hasn't helped Allen at all. Brady hasn't helped Allen. What you mean? Oh, Joe Brady? They still suck at the most important times. They lose in the most important times. F that. Yeah, but that could come down to defense. That could come down to offense. That could come down to offensive coordinator, play calling. It comes down to a lot of things. Josh Allen, we all know he's a risky quarterback. He was a risky quarterback coming into the draft, right? They moved up hella spots, took him at number 7. Most people thought it was crazy. It turned out to be pretty good. So you got to take the good with the bad with Josh Allen. He's going to fumble the ball. He's going to throw interceptions, and every quarterback is. You just have to be smart enough to know what you have in your quarterback and build around him. If you know your quarterback is a turnover machine, but he can still score like crazy, what does that tell you? You know what it tells me? I need to go get a defense. Oh, wow. You got a quarterback that's a turnover machine, but he can throw hella touchdowns. He can run for touchdowns, right? He's just up and down. Well, I think I would go build the shit out of my defense. That way, if he does throw a turnover, I got a defense that can get him the ball right back, right? It just makes sense. So teams just got to build right. Makes sense to me. Harbaugh is the best candidate. I don't know why we're talking about anyone else. I don't know if he's the best candidate, though. I don't know. We've talked about it. I broke down the scenarios. Let me know in the comments how you feel. What up, Raider Nation? You love the British Broadcasting Association. That's great. I'm glad you like BBC. Good for you. Shout out to you. I think the best candidate might be the coach now in the playoffs. Might be waiting for a Super Bowl break to see who gets requested for an interview. Let's talk about that too. Do the Raiders have time to wait? This is our next segment, and then the last, and we'll get the hell out of here. It's already been an hour and a half. Appreciate everybody that popped in the building. For the ones that didn't hit the like button, man, karma's a bitch. However, Do the Raiders have time to wait? Do we have time to wait till the Super Bowl? Till the Super Bowl's over to go get your quarterback? Now, if you're telling me it's Mike LaFleur, I'm all in. I'm all in. But where is the Raiders' window with this coaching cycle? I believe truly, very, very strongly that the Las Vegas Raiders need more than anything to have their coach and their whole entire staff in place within the next month. Within the next month. Now, Super Bowl is when? The 14th, something, I don't know. Whenever the hell the Super Bowl is going to be. But that's a long wait, man. Do the Raiders wait to interview these guys, or do they just take what's in the water and jump on the next big thing, right? And hope it works? I don't know how much of a rush we have. I don't know how much of a rush they have in the building. But I feel like the Raiders, should wait. They should wait till after the Super Bowl. They should do all the interviews they can and, have it narrowed down. So very, very, very shortly, within 3 days after the Super Bowl, right? Within a week after the Super Bowl, you should have your team and your staff in place. Because, if it was me and I knew that there was guys that I had higher on the list than guys that were, in the playoffs right now, I would definitely pull the trigger right now and just hire my guy and have him build his staff. Steelers won because Baltimore missed a kick. And it doesn't matter how they won, right? It doesn't matter how they won. The fact that the matter is, right? At the end of the day, they didn't have the L, no L. They had the dub, bro. They had the dub. So, missed field goal or not, they put themselves in a position to, to win or lose. And shit, they had lady luck on their side. And that's why I believe with a little bit of luck, the Steelers could go a long, long way. I don't even know who Davis Webb is. Davis Webb is a former quarterback. He was drafted by the Giants. He played for the Jets. He played for the Giants again. He also played for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills tried to get him, to stay and be the quarterback coach for Mr. Allen. Very highly talked, right? Very highly noted in the NFL community circle. And again, go on my X account, RaidersRebel _ RaidersRebel _ on X. Go follow me over there. Give me a like. Check out the article. I reposted it. I pinned it. It's up. They gaffed it against Cleveland, trying to stop Garrett from getting the record. Who? Who did? Who did? Who that? Who did? Niners are gay. That's not right, bro. General Manager Walt in the building. What's up, Casanova? What's your take on all this, G. Walt? Appreciate you, my guy. Raiders are bums. Man, don't come in here talking shit about my Raiders. Harbaugh bringing OC Todd Monken with him is fine. Yeah, I'm not hating on the Monken thing. It's a decent offense. But I believe there's some teams might have picked up on it. I think it might need a new revamp. He might have to bring in a different passing game coordinator, a different run game coordinator, right? Try to change things up a little bit. Who do you think will win the wild card round? Which wild card round are you asking? GM Walt thinks Stefanski would beat our coach. Shout out to GM Walt. If Walt's the GM, Mr. Casanova Court Club says Stefanski's the guy. And, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. But let me ask you this, Walt. If you're bringing in Kevin Stefanski, who's your OC and who's your DC? What do you call a Raider with a Super Bowl ring? Retired. That's great. That's fucking stupid. The Patriots, the Chargers, and the Bills. The Patriots, the Chargers, and the Bills. What about them? What about them? I think Raiders will get Stefanski too. I'm not hating on that. I don't know where Brady stands with Stefanski. I believe there might be a little something there with Spy Tech, but I don't know where their passes have ever crossed also. I agree. I think the Falcons will hire Harbaugh. It makes sense, man. It makes sense. You got a good running. You got one of the best running backs in all of football. You got a pretty solid defense. Makes sense. How do you stop the Raiders from jumping into your backyard? Put an end zone on the fence. All right, that shit was funny. That shit was funny. I'm not gonna lie. That shit was so funny. That shit was so funny that see you. 10 seconds, bro. 10 seconds. You can come back in. But you had to be putting a slammy for that. Maybe next year, our team will make it. Will make it Redskins. Yes, I call them Redskins still. Maybe the Redskins, Commanders, whoever you want to call them. I don't know where they're gonna make it. I don't know what they're gonna make it to. The NFC Championship, and then you win 3 games this year. So it's another quick long turnaround. But JD5 is a question, man, and there was a reason. If you go back and watch my lives, watch my videos from 2 years ago, I had JD5 with a big, huge question mark, right? A gigantic question mark because of his size, because of his fragileness, because of his, you know, that willing to run when all shit breaks down, and hasn't worked out for him. So there's been rumors that the Washington Commanders may be looking for a quarterback in this draft. They might not. They don't feel content and safe with the durability of JD5. So let me know how y'all feel about that. Shout out to everybody in the building. Like, subscribe, comment. Super chats are always welcome. Also, you can become a member to the channel. I ain't got no links to click, but just hit the button. Also, me as a Falcons fan, thank the Raiders for Diablo. He's the best for sure. Damn. Even though he got hurt this season. Well, the knock on Divine Diablo, if you watch any of my videos and talks about Divine Diablo, was the fact that the man couldn't tackle a mannequin in a department store, right? Horrible at missed tackles. Couldn't stay healthy for the Raiders, was on and off the field. And then, he goes over there to the Falcons and he's balling out. So, if he would have stayed healthy, the Raiders would have got an extra pick in this year's draft, possibly a 4th or a 3rd round. And the man couldn't stay healthy. So, Divine Diablo, thanks for helping the Raiders again. Appreciate you. What's good, Rebel? Stefan, my guy, appreciate you. I don't think Harbaugh and Monken stay together. But let me ask you this, Casanova. Wasn't that the reason that Harbaugh was let go? They told him, let go of Monken or we're moving on. And that's the reports I got. That's the reports that came out that said, John Harbaugh was fired from the Baltimore Ravens for the fact that he wouldn't move on from Monken. So if he's that loyal, I believe he comes with him on the next job. But I haven't heard Monken getting fired. So it was kind of funny that the reports came out that, if John Harbaugh didn't move on from Monken, that he was going to get fired. And then he gets fired and Monken is still there. So that's awful sus. But everybody will get fired once the new coaches start taking place, I do believe. Unfortunately, Deshaun is on the roster next year in Cleveland. And there's rumors that Deshaun Watson is healthy and is, looking good and ready to play. And when he's out there, bro, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in football, right? One of the best arms, the most athletic. The problem is when he's out there. When is he out there? I'm scared of the Chargers this game. I wouldn't be too scared of the Chargers. I mean, they got a little time to rest some of their subs. Herbert with his hand, and you're going against Sherbert, bro. Justin Sherbert is why I call him Sherbert, because he's soft like ice cream in the playoffs. The dude just melts, and with the one hand, shit, we'll see. Yes, John and Monken will stay together. That's what I believe. David Webb isn't getting a head coaching job. Don't be so sure about that, Casanova. I believe you might have been one of the ones that was, a Raider fan long enough to say John Gruden wasn't going to get that job also. Or, Lane Kiffin wasn't going to get that job also. What's the other one? Hugh Jackson, right? Hugh Jackson. A lot of people say Hugh Jackson wasn't going to get the job. Now, I know Al Davis isn't alive to make those decisions, but Mark continues that legacy. And, I wouldn't put it past anything with the Las Vegas Raiders. Bro, I don't see any of these questions you're reading. What? You don't see any of the questions except that one? Okay. Well, probably because I'm way behind, bro. The chat's like, there's 5,000 more questions in here. Shout out to everybody. If y'all do me a favor, if you could super chat or just hashtag your question. That way I know it's a question and I don't have to read all this. The Falcons are stupid for getting off of Kurt. It didn't, it turned out to bite him in the ass. They went and got a quarterback in Michael Penix that, has injury prone, has knee problems, a history of knee problems, and, might continue to have knee problems. So wasn't a great look. The fact that they don't have a first round pick this year. I forgot to bring that up. Somebody had the Atlanta Falcons third on their list. The Atlanta Falcons do not have a first round pick this year. I do believe they traded it with, I don't know who, possibly the Rams, somebody, I forgot who. But I believe they don't have a first round pick, and that's going to be a problem getting a head coach. You got problems, you got issues, your quarterback is hurt, you got Kirk Cousins making a whole shit ton of money being a backup, so it's crazy. Buying Mendoza jersey is wild. Right? I mean, shout out to the GOAT 205, right? He's got it like that, though. When you got that money, you can do whatever you want. You can get all the gloves, all the autographs, all that shit. Raiders will have their rise. Miss you guys at the bar, Niner fan. Battle at the Bay. We need to have a rise. We do need to have a rise. Miss us at the bar, Battle of the Bay. Yeah, I bet 49ers fans do miss the Raiders being in out there at the Bay. The Raiders are a dumpster fire and the only organization, but hopefully Brady can help turn it around in the future years. We should have got Shador. We should get Shador. Another one of the Shador fans. Crazy Shador fans. 18.5, the lowest quarterback rating in all of football in the history of the NFL. And y'all acting like we need to go get this guy? Crazy, bro. Raider Nation Jason, what it do, my guy? How's the baby girl? Raiders! Furpo in the building. Geomex in the building. What it do, my guys? Appreciate y'all. Still driving home. Appreciate y'all. Well, you can see the comments, clicks, dots, blah, 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 blah. Candy, Raiders. I'm getting through these. I'm trying to catch up. Raiders will come back. I'm excited for the coaching hire. As long as they get it right, bro. As long as they get it right. And, that's been a huge question for us. If you're not subscribed to the channel, for the first time seeing this channel, man, we drop fire content constantly. We are live as much as we could go live. I am on a streak of, I think, like the last 9, 10 days, 11 days. I've been live every single day. I will be live again later on. Oh, shit. I have a live scheduled later on for the football game. But my grandson will be here on short notice. So I will be babysitting. And I don't know if I'll be able to go live for the game. I might pop it on for a little bit, see how it works with little man. Y'all will love him. He's hilarious. So pull up tonight and watch the Carson Beck show, right? Carson Beck, bro. How is this dude not getting any talk? As a top quarterback in the NFL draft? Why is he not in a number 1, number 2? They have him 3rd or 4th quarterback selected. Man, the disrespect for Carson Beck is wild. Absolutely wild. It's a juicy opportunity for any head coaching coming through. I mean, absolutely. But you have the lingering Tom Brady over your head. And let me know. And there's 23 people in here. Shout out to all of y'all. Thumbs up or thumbs down. I feel Tom Brady is going to be the deciding factor on what big name coach comes in here, right? I think we have to go with a lesser name coach. And I don't believe the Raiders land the big fish. And I think it's Tom Brady is going to be the deciding factor that pushes people away. Let me know how you feel. Yes or no? I'm a fan of a terrible team too. Shout out to terrible team fans. Some terrible team fans. We should start a group. Anybody want to start a group chat of the terrible team fans? Let me know. We will get it popping. We can have all the shitty teams in, um, talking about all the garbage shit we've been through. Oh, draft Mendoza quarterback, trade Mad Max, get the Jets number one, draft Ohio State. With all the injuries, Carnell Tate. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. But it is what it is. I'm not hating on it. Not Smith. He's another year left. Yeah, we know that. Give Mendoza a stud wide receiver, but get 2 ones from the Jets this year and next year. I mean, in a perfect scenario, that would be great. But in a more perfect scenario, just build around Maxx Crosby and let him dominate the NFL like he should, if you believe he could do that. Now, I'm kind of starting to question it and doubt it a little bit, but it is what it is. Tony Shep in the building. Salute Raider Nation. 2 more hours in my work week. Shout out to you getting off. Enjoy your time off. Those 2 hours should blow by as long as you watch it. Raiders Unleashed, baby, right? Just got here, talked about the Donkeys quarterback coach yet. Yes, we did talk about the Donkeys quarterback coach. Robert Penna in the building. What's good, OG fam? The Godfather in the building. Yes, we did talk about it. There's a lot of talks about it, and I'm not hating on it. I want to see what it is. I believe, it could just be picking the Broncos' brain, trying to get a little bit of Sean Payton information, right? Then again, the Raiders, we talked about it, have known Lane Kiffin hired way too early, way too young. Also, John Gruden hired, way, way early, one of the earliest coaches in the NFL. So don't put it past the Raiders, to make some crazy decision. Raiders fans are delusional. Why do you say that? Like Kubiak, but this offense is zone run game, but his offense is a zone run game, right? It's an outside wide zone, I do believe. But Kubiak runs the Shanahan system, so there will be push and pull, right? There will be, duo. There will be a power scheme. They do run a lot of power scheme. It's the same system. Kubiak is the same system that I would want. The guy I want in Mike LaFleur, the Rams OC. Double tap the screen, hit the like button if you agree with Mike LaFleur finally getting his chance in the NFL. I think it's past due. And I think he's a name that should be on the list. But Mike LaFleur would run the same offense, right? It would be a lot of outside zone, which is, would help Genty out. There would be a lot of power. There would be a lot of, duo. It's not going to be just one gap scheme. It's going to be, 3, 4, 5, 6. Holy shit, my battery just went dead. But shout out to everybody in the building. Appreciate y'all. I know I didn't get to everybody's questions. Stay away from Kubiak, get Harbaugh. You just don't want us to steal your offensive coordinator, and I feel you. My phone is about to die. Holy shit. Can y'all even hear me? Shout out to the $4.99. Show this content creator some support and follow my guys. Yes, we are trying to get to 2,000, man. Share it with your people. If you're a diehard Raider fan, if you blue, silver, and black, if you want a Raider fan, content creator that has been a fan his whole entire life and knows nothing but the Las Vegas Raiders, bleeds nothing but silver and black, I'm your man. Like, subscribe, follow. I appreciate everybody in the building. I'm sorry I couldn't get to your comments. Pull up. We will talk later. Shout out to the 21. I hate leaving like this, but yo, I got to do what I got to do. The battery's going to die. We will be live later on for a little bit to talk, the Ole Miss Miami game. We will be watching a whole bunch of players coming out, into the NFL draft. Some guys I got my eye on. Not Ruben Bain, but on the other side. If you want to know who that is, like, subscribe, follow, and find out. Raiders! Peace! Much love, nation. Love y'all.